Hi guys, the wait is finally over. Disney finally dropped the full trailer for James Cameron Avatar Fire and Ash. I'll try to do a frame by frame breakdown, pointing out Easter eggs and hidden details you guys might have missed. I want to start by taking us back to the emotional death of Neteyam in The Way of the Water. Neteyam was my favorite solid child, and it was heartbreaking to see him die like that. I blame Loak for his death, and I don't think I'm going to ever forgive Loak. So let's get into the trailer. The trailer opens with a beautiful view of the Hallelujah Mountains, also known as the Thundering Rock. Like, we're immediately immersed back into the beautiful and dangerous world of Pandora. We can see two Ikram riders flying through the sky, which I believe are Loak and Sereya. This is followed by an underwater shot of two characters I believe are still the same people, the same pair, riding an Ilo as they explore a sea dragon wreck. This looks like a symbolic representation of the battle scars left on Pandora, especially after the major events like the Battle of the Three Borders at the end of The Way of the Water. Next, Kiri is seen interacting with the wood sprites. Judging from the first movie, that was in series' first appearance, it was established that wood sprite's presence is symbolic. So this raises a question about Kiri's growing connection to Eywa, which has already been established in the last movie, I guess. So this begs the question, what is her role, what is her connection with Eywa, and where does it lead to? Sereya delivers the first line of dialogue so far. The strength of the ancestor is here. The strength of the ancestors is here. Kiri can be seen in the background too. Loak appears to still be grieving, or maybe he still blames himself for Neteyam's death, as he should. The scene where they explore the underwater wreckage could be related to this scene. Now, next scene, Loak is shown pushing Jake. This seems to be like a heated moment or like an argument. It's clear that Loak will be a major focus in this installment based on the amount of times we've seen him appear in this trailer so far. We're introduced to a new tribe, the Tlalim tribe. Sorry, I'm not pronouncing that well. They're also known as wind traders. They are rumored to be a nomadic tribe. We're also introduced to a massive, beautiful sky creature. I believe that is a Q connector on its neck. Kiri seems to be riding with them and she looks extremely amazed. Now the next scene cuts to a massive volcano that looks active. So we finally get to see the much anticipated Ash village, home to the Man Quiet tribe. This tribe appears to have adapted to a ash fire-scarred environment. We can see a burnt out home tree in the background, a callback to the destruction of the home tree in the first movie. Now the Solid children are shown walking through a swampy forest. Loak looks either exhausted or injured. It's being supported by Tuk. Kiri is also there in the background. We also get a glimpse of Payakan. I still can't believe Loak chose to risk his life and got his brother killed for Payakan. Cut to a ceremonial looking scene with Tonowari and Vono both dressed in full ritual attire. Could this be a Tolkien ritual or probably a preparation for a major battle? We'll find out. We get our first sight of Spider with Kiri walking through the jungle. They are both holding a knife. This could just be a hunt. I don't think this is anything serious. Loak and Sereya are seen again. Like I said, with the amount of times he has been shown in this trailer, I think his character is gradually taking the lead role. This time they are seen in a playful and romantic scene, which mirrors Jake and Neytiri's courtship in the first movie. But the disapproving look on her parents' face suggests this relationship might test family dynamics and loyalty. Now, Jake and Nitiri are having a conversation. Jake tells her, "You can't continue living in it." Nitiri looks shocked, but after losing her father, her mother, and now her son, I can see her character suffering from some sort of emotional breakdown. This is a hint that Fire and Ash might focus more on internal family issues than external threats. We then see footsteps in the ash. This figure from the back seems to be Courage. As we all know, he was saved from drowning by Spider. What could he be up to now? We can also see Ikran circling above. Jake holds Spider, who is not wearing a mask. That is weird, considering humans need masks to breathe on Pandora. Maybe this is just a dream. Now Jake is seen running through a crowd of Na'vi with fire in the background, possibly another Aldea attack. This reminds me of when Courage burned a Mekaina village in the last movie. Jake also intervenes in a standoff between Tonowari and Aldea soldiers. Several Aldea ships appear in what looks like a show of might. One of the ships is even larger than the Sea Dragon. What could they be up to? Or what could they be planning? We get a close-up of Courage. His face looks bruised, likely from the final battle in the last movie. Seems like he's aboard this massive ship. Finally, we're introduced to Varang, a new antagonist who might be Nitiri's nemesis. She emerges from a tent-like structure with her Ikran behind her. Her costume is unlike anything we have seen, which is a clear indicator that her people are something different. With their ash grey skin and scarred Q-braids, demonstrating their rejection of Awa. They forge weapons from volcanic materials and ride fierce creatures called Ash Drakes. Obviously, in this part, they are going to destroy the idea that all Na'vis are good. Now we see Courage meeting with the Manquai, arriving heavily armed. Multiple Scorpion gunships, Dragon assault ships, and armed suits are visible. Cut to the next scene, we see Varang playing with fire. Do they control fire? At this point, James Cameron is never beating the last Airbender allegations. But fun fact, James Cameron had already started developing Avatar in 1996. He announced plans to direct Avatar after Titanic, but the motion capture technology needed to direct the film did not advance as fast as Cameron expected, so the movie never officially got off the ground until 2006. Fortunately for him, he had already purchased the rights to the name Avatar, which forced Nickelodeon to add The Last Airbender to the name of their hit animated series. So back to the scene where Varang is playing with fire. We see a tattoo on her palm, which is a common element in the Na'vi culture, representing spiritual and social identity. Like the title suggests, we should also expect lots of fire in this one. The Solid Children are under arrow and fire attack in the jungle, with Loak returning fire using an assault rifle. Now we hear Nitiri say the children. She appears to be under medical care, maybe injured in battle. Hopefully we get to see Norm and Max Patel. They made an appearance in the last movie when Kiri needed urgent medical attention, so we should be expecting to see them again. We see a quick shot of Tok and Kiri running through the jungle. Spider collapses into Kiri's arms and we see his marks flashing warning signs. Could he be running out of oxygen? A wide shot of Hell's Gate appears, the original outpost from the first film. Humans and Akrans are seen landing while people are waiting outside. Jake is seen captured and paraded by the RDA, being escorted by soldiers in scale suits. Now we see a beautiful shot of a lone Akran soaring the beautiful skies of Pandora. But whose is it? Nitiri is seen saying to someone, likely Jake, "We'll find another way." She looks sad and her tone is more composed compared to the revenge-driven version of her we've seen recently. Jake and Nitiri appears geared up for battle, with Akrans flying in the background. Looks like a build-up to the final showdown. Varang riding her Akran gives a fierce battle cry as she and her people launch an attack, This marks the first Na'vi versus Na'vi, Ikran versus Ikran era battle, exploring Civil War themes never touched before. James Cameron did promise Fire and Ash would be vastly different. Now we see a familiar battle-ready Neytiri drawing a bow to protect her family and her people. Spider holding a crossbow jumps across floating mountains, possibly part of the Hallelujah Mountains. Jake is also on the floating island, looking battle-worn as he stares at Spider, who is again without an oxygen mask. Has he adapted to Pandora's atmosphere? Is that even possible? This is definitely a sign of something big. Kiri looks terrified in the jungle. Jake is later seen consoling Neytiri. A menacing shot of courage confirms his alliance with the Mankwai clan. This changes everything we expect about his hunt for the Sully family. This is no longer just humans versus Na'vi, but a more complicated war of conflict. We then see Jake and Courage engage in hand-to-hand combat once again. Hopefully this rematch finally brings closure to their intense rivalry. Loak is shown wielding the same rifle Jake used in The Way of Water. He looks focused and prepared to pull the trigger, a powerful symbol of his growth from a reckless boy to a determined warrior. But who is he aiming at? Jake and Neytiri are then seen swooping into battle together, Ikran's flying behind them. Neytiri draws her bow and it looks like she's aiming at Varang. This shot confirms that Varang is likely a primary nemesis, or at least their ideological opposite. Varang appears to be controlling fire, probably with some sort of device, I'm not sure. In the same scene, we can also see Kiri on her knees, tied to a tree. Looks like she was kidnapped by Varang. I don't think she dies, but this scene looks really intense and is something to look forward to. Varang then drops a cold and terrifying line. Your goddess has no dominion here. That was definitely the highlight of the trailer. You could feel the tension and the intensity. It definitely builds up our anticipation for the movie. The line also signals the Mankwang clan's rejection of Iwa, suggesting they operate outside the spiritual norms of Pandora. Ona Chaplin, granddaughter of the great Charlie Chaplin, who plays Varang, is definitely taking center stage in this movie, and her presence is already felt just from the trailer. I really love how she delivers that line. Your goddess has no dominion here. Then we get to see the logo, which sets the theme of fire in this installment, unlike the previous blue logo. So far, it's certain that we're in for a ride with this one. I'm sure there's still more to unpack. This is just my first reaction.